I was a PlayStation 1 fan, a PlayStation 2 fan. I didn't like the PlayStation 3, but I kind of liked the PlayStation 4. I still enjoy my PlayStation 4 Pro because I like having games on the disc, especially when a game has the Steelbook edition. You can also find the Steelbook edition for PC, for example, Metaphor Refantasio, but you only get a Steam code. I know that you don't need a disc for PC, but even so, I would love to have that on a disc because it's nice to have as a collection. Or if not a disc, at least something that can make you feel that you own that game. That is not just a license. I hate it that these days you get a license for a game, not the game. So anyway, I don't care about the PlayStation 5 because you don't have a lot of games and most of them will come to PC. And also PlayStation started supporting a lot of censorship during the PlayStation 4 era. For me, it started with the censorship of Devil May Cry 5. Before that, I used to buy PlayStation games all the time. But I stopped trusting PlayStation because after the huge backlash over the censorship, they just said that they are trying to censorship the game during development. More exactly, they are telling the developers how to make the game. If they don't create the characters that PlayStation wants, and if they don't cut all the stuff that Sony wants, then they will refuse to release their games on PlayStation. And PlayStation is a huge platform. A lot of games were released only on the PlayStation. So it will be hard for a game developer who only released games on PlayStation exclusively to suddenly make games for other platforms. And here we get a lot more issues. What if other platforms decide to do the same thing? Or what if the fans that were on PlayStation will not buy the game on other platforms? Because if you own a PlayStation, that doesn't mean you also own a PC. So I lost interest in PlayStation because I don't support censorship. At least I try to. Maybe if Sony reconsiders, I will come back to them. But in 2022, Sony is announcing that they want to release 12 live service games. Yeah, no thanks. I use the PlayStation to play single player games. And Sony releasing 12 live service games is very bad. Imagine the money that you need to make a live service game. They 100% sacrificed a lot of single player games. Let's say that the live service game is successful. That means that they will use a lot of resources to support that game. And even try to make more games like that. So bye bye to single player games. Or let's say that it fails, like it usually does with these games. Most of them have dedicated fans. So if you make a game that looks like Genshin Impact or Fortnite, it will be very hard to make those gamers to come to your game, because they already invested a lot of time and money in that game. So anyway, after 12 live service games, 8 of them are already cancelled. That means two things. They have to make more money from the other ones left, or they have to sacrifice the budget for single player games. For example, Ben Studio was too busy with the live service instead of making a Days Gone 2 game. I love Days Gone, but the marketing for Days Gone was very bad, and their budget was very small. So at release they didn't do a great job. The game was full of bugs. From the marketing I thought that the game was awful, but after I saw some gameplay and some more information about the game, I started loving it. And it became the best Sony game for me. So now even if they want to make Days Gone 2, it is not possible. The developers who wanted to make a single player game with a great story like Days Gone, they probably left because they don't want to work on a live service game. And I know for sure that some of them left. Anyway, so like I said, 8 live service games failed. They still have in development a game named Marathon made by Bungie. Guerrilla Games is making Horizon Online game. And Heaven Studio is making Fair Games. The only live service game that is a success is Helldivers. And I'm not sure if the other 3 will be a success. At least not at the level of Helldivers. So from 12 live service games, we only get one success? And the question is if that success is so big that they recover the money lost from the other games. If so, what now? Will Sony try to make another 12 live service games and Maybe this time they will make more successful games? Or they are okay if only one succeeds? For me, that doesn't seem like a logical reason to buy a PlayStation. The idea of PlayStation was that they are making a lot of single player games that we love, not one live service game that, I don't know, maybe some people love. Or after they release a single player game that is successful, they will try to make a live service out of it. Because I love Days Gone and I don't want to see it as a live service game. This is why I'm not sure if I want to see Days Gone 2. I mean, I'm okay if they are making Deacon St. John minding his own business, making a family, and maybe having Lisa as the main character, because I think she has a story to tell and a life to rebuild. But for now, I'm 100% sure Sony doesn't have the talent to make a good Days Gone 2 game, no matter what and whose story they are trying to tell. Because these days Sony just tries to force their ideology and nothing more. So if they are not focused on making a fun game and telling a good story, it will not be a good game. Because I don't want to see whatever gender they invent or something else. I mean, I used to be okay with having LGBTQ stuff in my games. For example, in Persona games where you always have an LGBTQ person, or even in the Yakuza games. I did not care because it did not seem to be forced. Now I don't trust Sony. Every time I see an LGBTQ flag or any other stuff like that, I'm 100% sure it is forced. Because I don't trust Sony anymore. I almost trust no company anymore because they just want that free BlackRock money. They do not care about the story anymore, they do not care about their creation, about their creativity. They just want free money. And why would I care about that? If you make a game out of love, out of passion, the gamer should decide if that game is good or not. They will buy the game, they will support the game, they will buy merchandise with the game, and you will make a lot of money. But if you want BlackRock to give you money, that means that you don't care about the story, about the characters, about the gameplay. You will just want to please BlackRock or the investors. And I don't care about that because I don't buy your games to please the investors. I buy games to support the creative mind, the originality, and most importantly, to have fun. So of course you will make money if you please the gamers, if you have a fun game. But if you please the investors, you will not please the gamers and yeah, who buys your games? The investors? They want to make money, not spend money. This is why they invest. They don't buy. So this is why I don't like these decisions made by Sony. Ben Studio was focused on making live service games. That means they never worked on another game like Days Gone or on a Days Gone Part 2. And if they start to do it now, it will take even more years to release a game that I want. And even if they do that, they still don't have the whole team. They have the live service team. I don't know how hard, but it will be very hard to recover the old team. And also it will be very hard to make the live service team to make the games that the single player team made. We will see, but things are not looking well for Sony. The only reason I supported the PlayStation was because I love to have the games on a disc. With a live service, there is no reason for that. And if they release their games on Steam, I don't want a PSN account for that. Because I don't get better games because of that, I don't get huge discounts because of that, there's no reason for me to make an account. And also, Sony doesn't make good games anymore, so yeah. Well, you can say that they are not making good games, they just buy companies that make good games. But now they don't even do that. And that's okay. Because I don't want anything to be exclusive to Sony because they want censorship and nothing more. Oh yeah, and uglify women. And I forgot to add one more thing. It's not Sony overall. It's mostly Sony America. They wanted to push these live service games. For example, even in this article, they are trying to argue that 200 million was not enough to found Concord for the entire development. And I think that's a lie. Concord did fail not because the founding was too low. They had a lot of people with no experience. They had no idea how to monetize the game, and for a live service game, that's the most important part. But also, let's not forget the most important thing. They wanted to force LGBTQ propaganda. I do not care who was Zer, non-binary, gender fluid or whatever. I only care if my characters are cool, beautiful, awesome. But instead they focused on characters being non-offensive, that it pleases the 0.00001% of the mother audience. So they didn't care about the fans, the ones that are buying Sony products for many, many years. For example, I am a fan since PlayStation 1. But yeah, Sony doesn't care about fans like that, they care about the modern audience. And we see how that is going for them. Sony should stop with the censorship, they should start making fun games, and I also expect single player games. It is sad to see that the AAA gaming industry is going bankrupt, but I cannot say that I feel bad for them when they show so much disrespect for the gamers. You know, the ones that made them huge, the ones that support them, the ones that not only buy their games, they also buy the merchandise and they also promote their stuff. But we will see in the future if Sony will change or if they will still continue with this. If they continue with this modern audience, they should hope that the modern audience has a lot of money because they need to buy a lot more games to compensate for the lack of their numbers. Because I don't buy games for the modern audience and I don't pay for censorship. And a lot of people who used to support PlayStation also doesn't buy the new games.